Broncos country, buckle up, because what just happened at training camp is the kind of news that makes you want to run outside and scream into the Colorado sky. A tidal wave, and I mean an absolute tidal wave, of fantastic news just crashed down on this Denver Broncos team, and it is coming at the exact moment the rest of this division is falling apart at the seams. While other locker rooms are turning into hospital wards, the Broncos are doing something almost unheard of in the NFL. Getting healthier, getting deeper, and getting more terrifying by the day. And that's not even the biggest headline. We've got a superstar who begged, and I mean begged, to come home to Denver only to get told no thanks and watch him sign somewhere else entirely. We've got a locker room situation that could have blown up the entire outside linebacker room, quietly holding steady for now. And we've got the so-called experts at ESPN finally waking up and admitting what we've known in our hearts for months, that this Broncos team isn't just good for one season, it's being built to dominate the entire AFC for years to come. So grab a seat, Broncos country, because we are diving into all of it right now. Before we get into the madness, let's take care of business real quick. This channel is closing in on a milestone that means the world to us. We are sitting right around 600 subscribers, and we need just 400 more of you to hit that magic number of 1,000. If you're watching this and you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, this is your sign. It costs you nothing, it takes 2 seconds, and it helps us keep bringing you this kind of in-depth, no-nonsense Broncos coverage every single week. So smash that like button, drop a comment telling us what you think about everything we're about to break down, and hit subscribe. Okay, now let's get into the good stuff. Let's start with the injury report, because this is where the real story begins. Earlier this month, this fan base was, understandably, on edge. A handful of soft tissue injuries popped up in camp and had everybody spiraling into panic mode, wondering if the wheels were about to come off before the season even started. Well, Broncos country, here's your answer. Every single one of those guys is coming back. And they're coming back at the exact moment the rest of the NFL, especially teams in this division, are dropping like flies. While Denver is stacking healthy practice days on top of healthy practice days, their rivals are watching their depth charts crumble in real time. It's almost poetic. Take Nick Bonito, for example. Early in camp, there was real concern about his availability, and doubters were quick to assume the worst. But he has been back out there looking every bit like his dominant self, and the concerning talk has all but disappeared. We've been saying it since day one, trust this coaching staff's timeline, because they keep being right. And it's not just him. The defensive line depth on this roster right now is, in the words of Zach Allen himself at the podium, absolutely nasty. K. Robinson has been balling out of control in camp. Jonah Ellis has been balling out of control in camp. And there are still other names on this roster, guys like Johnny Walker, that have this coaching staff genuinely excited about the future of this pass rush. Pair that defensive line with the secondary Denver has quietly built behind it, and you are looking at a defense that is going to put the entire NFL on notice this season. Now here's where things get spicy. Von Miller, the Super Bowl 50 MVP, the guy who has spent literally years publicly lobbying, campaigning, practically pleading to come back home to Denver, has officially signed elsewhere. He's headed to the Dallas Cowboys. Let that sink in for a second. This is a guy who told anyone who would listen that Denver was his dream landing spot, who said he'd take a backup role just to be back in that locker room, who talked about bringing back those Super Bowl 50 vibes for Bo Nix and Courtland Sutton. And Denver said, respectfully, no thanks. Now on the surface, some fans might read that as cold, but here's the twist. Broncos country, and it's a big one, this is actually one of the most encouraging signs you could possibly ask for. Think about it. If there was ever a scenario where the front office needed an insurance policy at outside linebacker, a prove-it team-friendly, one-year Von Miller reunion would have been the easiest move in the world to justify. The fact that Denver didn't feel the need to make that move tells you everything about how this front office feels about the depth already sitting in that room. They didn't need the nostalgia play. they've got the horses. Now, on the subject of that outside linebacker room, here's an update Broncos country needs to hear. And it deserves to be handled with real seriousness rather than treated as just another roster storyline. Jonathan Cooper is in the middle of a genuinely serious legal situation that is still working its way through the court system. And that matters more than any depth chart discussion. What we can tell you is that in the NFL's most recent wave of personal conduct suspensions handed down across the league, Cooper was not among the names included, though league officials have publicly stated this simply reflects where the process currently stands and that his case remains under review as the legal proceedings continue. For now, he remains with the team, but this is a story Broncos country will need to keep watching closely because nothing about it is settled. Now let's get to the news that has this entire fan base buzzing louder than anything else this week. Jaylen Waddle is back. Back again. If you remember, there was a wave of pessimistic outside noise suggesting the coaching staff's injury timeline for Waddle was overly optimistic, maybe even fantasy football wishful thinking. Sean Payton said Waddle would be back within 4 or 5 practices. Guess what? That is almost exactly where we landed, as Waddle returned as a full participant in practice right on schedule. At some point, Broncos country, we all just need to accept the pattern here. When this coaching staff tells you something, believe them. Payton was even asked directly whether the team needed to do anything special to make up for the practice time Bo Nix and Waddle missed together, and he essentially said no, that the two of them have already logged plenty of time on task, strongly hinting they've been working together outside of standard team practices. He went a step further and said the two of them would get more time together this weekend, which sets up the very real possibility that we get our first look at Bo Nix and Jaylen Waddle connecting in a preseason game against the Green Bay Packers. If that happens, Broncos country, mark it down as appointment viewing. The center position also got a massive jolt of good news. Denver had been forced down to their 4th option at center, which was setting off alarm bells all over social media. Now both of their top 2 options are back on the field. Luke Wattenberg returned to practice and participated in one-on-ones. And Alex Forsyth also returned and worked in team drills. Either one of these guys anchoring that offensive line in front of Bo Nix is a massive upgrade. And knowing that one of them is projected to be the one snapping the ball to Nix this Friday night takes a huge weight off the shoulders of this offense. On top of that, Marvin Mims Jr. was back in a helmet, working through individual drills before shifting over to the side field for a more controlled practice session. However you slice it, this Broncos team is trending healthy at exactly the right time, with Monday Night Football just 4 weeks away. All that panic Broncos country was drowning in earlier this month, it was for nothing. It was never time to panic, and it still isn't. Now compare that to the team many believe is Denver's toughest competition in this division outside of the Broncos themselves, the Los Angeles Chargers. Their injury report reads like a MASH unit. Rashawn Slater, a player who suffered an injury type that very few in NFL history have ever fully returned from, has reportedly re-aggravated that same injury early in camp and has not stepped on the field since. That forced the Chargers to shuffle Joe Alt over to left tackle just to patch the hole. Their top pass rusher, Khalil Mack, is old enough that the front office is still leaning heavily on a guy who, let's be honest, is closer to a Hall of Fame bust than a rookie card at this point. And their big free agency splash at tight end, David Njoku, brought in to fix a position the Chargers barely used last season, has been unable to practice. Meanwhile, on the Broncos side of the ledger, the only real absences were Drew Sanders and one other depth piece. That's it. That is the entire contrast in a nutshell, and it says everything about which team is built to survive the marathon of an NFL season. Let's shift over to one of the feel-good stories of camp, the absolute glow-up of rookie running back Jonah Coleman. Digging back through some early scouting reports from before last college football season even kicked off, There were analysts who genuinely believed Coleman had a shot at sneaking into the back end of the first round of the draft. Instead, he fell all the way to Denver in the fourth round, and Broncos country is already reaping the rewards. Because in his first real preseason action against the Atlanta Falcons, he looked phenomenal. What makes this even sweeter is watching the culture inside this Broncos locker room. Guys who should, in theory, be fighting each other tooth and nail for targets and touches are instead the ones hyping each other up the loudest. We already saw it with Jalen Waddle and Marvin Mims, two guys who are technically competing for the same targets but act like each other's biggest fans. Now we're seeing the exact same energy around Jonah Coleman. Ridge Harvey was asked directly about his rookie running back partner and gushed, saying their shared goal is to build the best running back room in the entire NFL and that Coleman is going to be a great player. Then Coleman posted a photo to social media, and Jalen Waddle himself hopped into the comments and compared him directly to Maurice Jones-Drew, which, for those who know their football history, is about as high a compliment as you can pay a young running back. Fans and analysts alike have already noted that Coleman's early flashes look a lot like a young Javonte Williams back when the entire fantasy football world was scrambling to grab him off the waiver wire. Sean Payton was even asked why Coleman didn't see more snaps in that preseason outing, and his answer was pure quiet confidence. He doesn't need to reinforce what he's already seen for 3 straight weeks of training camp. Compare that patient, calculated approach to what just happened with the Arizona Cardinals, who threw their first-round rookie running back straight into extended preseason action, only to watch him suffer a high ankle sprain, an injury with a notoriously high re-aggravation rate. Denver is playing this entire situation about as perfectly as a franchise possibly could. And it all traces back to a front office that keeps drafting high-character players who genuinely want to see each other succeed. That's not an accident, Broncos country. That's a plan. The last name to circle back into the fold was J.K. Dobbins, and let's be honest, there was never a serious injury concern here in the first place. This was Sean Payton simply being smart, refusing to throw a veteran running back out onto a turf field behind a backup center while he's still working his way back from a Lisfranc injury, one that stemmed from an illegal fluky tackle during a Thursday night game last season. Rather than force it, the staff eased him back in, and now Dobbins is a full participant in practice again. Careful, deliberate, and paying off. Here's the part of this story that should get every single person in Broncos country fired up. And it's not just some homer talking point pulled out of thin air. It's the rest of the league finally admitting what we already knew. ESPN released a set of power rankings projecting which franchise will be the best in the entire AFC over the next 4 seasons, running all the way through 2029. Denver landed at number 4 overall, trailing only the Seahawks, Lions, and Eagles, and sitting comfortably ahead of the Los Angeles Chargers at number 10 and the Kansas City Chiefs down at number 11. A franchise that, let's remember, didn't even make the playoffs last season despite a healthy Patrick Mahomes. This isn't wishful thinking anymore, Broncos country. This is the mainstream media finally catching up to what's actually been happening on the field. And here's the stat that should end any lingering doubt. Looking at total yards a quarterback has been responsible for across the entire AFC West since Bo Nix entered the league, Nix is far and away the leader of the pack. Meanwhile, the football world keeps showering praise on Josh Allen and Justin Herbert, a quarterback who, let's not forget, still hasn't won a single playoff game. Strip away sack yardage and combine Nix's passing and rushing production, and he is miles ahead of both of them. And remember, he's done all of this without a true number 1 receiver like Jalen Waddle for the majority of his young career. He's done it while playing behind the largest dead cap hit in NFL history. He's done it after the franchise burned draft capital just to acquire Sean Payton, and burned even more draft capital just to acquire Russell Wilson before moving on from him entirely. Now imagine what this offense looks like going forward, when Denver finally gets to keep its own first-round picks and actually has real cap space to spend. The scary part is, this version of the Broncos might be the floor, not the ceiling. And finally, because every good tabloid story needs one last laugh, let's talk about the Kansas City Chiefs training camp highlight reel that's been making the rounds. There is absolutely no version of reality in which Travis Kelce, a tight end who respectfully is far too old to still be making defenders miss in the open field, should be juking anybody at this stage of his career. And yet the Chiefs proudly put out a clip of Kelce doing exactly that, breaking a defender's ankles like he's 25 again. Somehow this is one of the only highlight videos in recent memory that manages to make both the offense and the defense look completely overmatched at the same time, because a tight end built like an offensive lineman should not be able to do that to anybody, on either side of the ball. Beatable? Absolutely, and Broncos country is going to find out exactly how beatable in just 4 weeks, when Denver walks into their Monday Night Football matchup ready to prove it on national television. So there you have it, Broncos country. A defense getting healthier and nastier by the day, a superstar snubbed for the sake of internal depth, a locker room culture that's the envy of the entire league, a rookie running back turning heads, and a national media finally catching up to a truth we've known all along, that this Denver Broncos team is being built for sustained long-term dominance. This is a franchise on the rise, and you do not want to miss a single second of the ride. If this video got you fired up, smash that like button right now, drop a comment and tell us which piece of news has you the most excited, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Because we are only 400 subscribers away from hitting 1,000, and we want you to be part of this journey with us. We've got a massive week of content coming, including 2 huge interviews you will not want to miss. Until next time, this has been Broncos, and Broncos country, we've got a ton to believe in.